Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. Captain was sucked out of the window. Spent 30 minutes in the sky and survived. Their plane departed from Birmingham International Airport for Malaga, Spain according to the schedule, at 8:20 local time. June 10, 1990. The crew, led by aircraft commander Tim Lancaster, prepared for the regular work. There were 81 passengers on board. There were no signs of trouble at all. He turned the autopilot on. At 8:33 the plane was about 90 miles over Didcot, Oxfordshire. Everything was going as usual. The pilots unbuckled the seat belts, and Lancaster also loosened the lap belt. The flight attendants in the cabin were ready for food and drinks. Suddenly the left-hand windscreen in the cockpit came loose and flew off, causing a potentially deadly decompression. The captain, Tim Lancaster, was half sucked out, with his legs caught on the flight controls. The captain was pressed with his back to the fuselage from the outside, and everybody thought that he had died already. While his first officer, Alistair Atchison, fought to control the aircraft, cabin attendant Nigel Ogden grabbed hold of Lancaster and held onto him with all his might. Eventually, with the help of another flight attendant, Simon Rogers, they freed Mr. Lancaster's legs from the controls and Mr. Atchison was able to make an emergency landing at Southampton, with no passenger injuries. You can listen to this story on our channel. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=abu_q3xmsau. End of story. Next story. Doctors announced that the son's brain was dead, but the father didn't believe and saved his life. To save a child's life, parents can do crazy things. They sacrifice their own lives just to be sure that their child is safe and sound. 58-year-old George Pickering is known for the fact that in January 2015, he was threatening a nurse with a gun, and later on he closed himself with a sick son in a hospital room in Texas. The son was on the verge of life and death. The desperate father believed that by his action he would save his child. And so it happened. It turns out that 27-year-old son of George Pickering suffered several strokes. And because of the last one, the young man fell into a coma. The man remembers that day very clearly. Doctors announced that the patient's brain was dead. Pickering recounted that his son had had seizures in the past, so he knew the procedure. He also knew that contrary to what the hospital told him in January, his son wasn't brain dead. Pickering pulled out a gun and sat next to his son's hospital bed and began a tense standoff with police. His desperate strategy worked. During the hours in which Pickering refused to leave his son's room, he felt his son squeeze his hand several times on command. With confirmation that his son was responsive and wasn't brain dead as doctors believed, Pickering peacefully surrendered. Afterwards, George was jailed and faced charges for assault with a deadly weapon. You can watch the full video here. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=mnkd5cfujmu. End of story. Next story. I smell good? 16 comments. Share save hide report 99% upvoted. End of story. Next story. Just a little story I wrote in English class. Thought it was funny, so I wanted to share. Devil and girl. Sick of mortal limitations, Danny drew a pentagram on the ground around the disembodied head of a goat and the disembodied body of her little brother after chanting the ancient words taught to her by that sketchy librarian from 4th Street. Her room began to glow red. Random items in her room levitated and began to spin around, then a flash of light originating from the center of the room blinded Dani, and once she opened her eyes, Satan himself stood before her. "Who has summoned me? I have my lie. Why would you do that? Do you know how annoying it is to be summoned?" Quote, "No, I do. You just what? Have some problem? Or want some evil dark magic or something?" Quote, Dani is at a loss for words. "What is this?" Satan says, pointing toward the pentagram on the ground. "It's what I used to summon you. Why is there a dead body and a goat head here?" Quote, "They were sacrifices. What sick monster would require you to kill a person and an innocent goat to summon them? All you needed to do was draw the pentagram and chant. There was no need for this. You're a terrible person. But you're literally Satan, Prince of Darkness. Okay. That name comes from when I was younger. I've grown as person since then. Yeah. Sure, when I was still a little snake baby I made Eve eat that apple, but I thought it would just have been a silly little prank, didn't think it would get you humans kicked out of the garden. Wait, if that's true, does that mean God is real?" Quote, "Which one?" Quote, "What?" Quote, "Never mind, what's important is that I'm real. And you're a terrible person. You torture people. Yeah, I punish bad people who did bad things. But why does that make me bad? What's the difference between me and these prisons you have here?" Quote, "The people you torture deserve it and were put there for a reason. Also, not many people argue that prisons are good. Fair enough. But none of this changes that you murdered a child. And a goat. You didn't even eat the goat or anything. You just took its head and left its body on the ground where you killed it. You're going back to hell with me. Get over here." With a flash of light, Satan disappeared and Dani's body was left on the ground cold. Later that afternoon, Dani's parents walked upstairs asking if she has seen where her brother went, and were horrified to find the two corpses and the goat head. The neighbors saw the Smiths digging late into the night, but in fear of their safety they all kept quiet about it. End of story. Next story. Kitchen piss. I was in 8th grade, so probably about 14. My family and I went to my aunt's house one weekend. I can't remember why. We didn't go over there much, only every now and then. I don't remember where the grown-ups were, but me and my cousin, who was about 7, went on to do our own thing. They didn't have much to do, so we ended up in the kitchen looking at memes on my phone. My sister was also there. She was about 10. Doing whatever she was doing. I keep scrolling looking at memes, my cousin looking over my shoulder. I laughed at a funny one and I guess my cousin didn't get it. He asked, "Why is that so funny?" I tell him, "You probably wouldn't get it." He then said, "I don't know if you'll get this, but it's funny." He gets up and walks to the middle of the kitchen, looks down, then back up at me, gives me a death stare, grins and pisses all over himself, never breaking eye contact. It keeps going for a good minute. I'm trying not to laugh. My sister goes to find my aunt and mom. She's gone a few minutes the entire time he's standing in his piss puddle. I don't do anything. I don't know what to do. I just seen a 7-year-old piss himself on purpose. My sister returns, aunt and mom following behind. My aunt is furious. She comes in screaming. She asks my cousin, "What the hell is wrong with you?" She takes my cousin to his room. A few minutes later she came out. He did not. I still don't know what happened in there. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.